What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy VIII. Last time we met Zell, we went off to take the seed field exam. Our squad leader Cypher went missing, and Selphie, who bumped into us in the beginning of the game, has joined our party to deliver a message to Cypher. We're here in Dollet, where the Galbadian army has invaded to gain use of one of the world's few salvageable communications towers, which we're seeing Biggs and Wedge trying to repair right now. And they don't really seem to know what they're doing. So Wedge is going to patrol the area, which doesn't look all that big. Don't know why he needs to patrol. Meanwhile, his companion, Biggs, is going to go ahead and complete the repairs, but he's kind of going to get ambushed. Oh, I love that overly elaborate deployment of the satellite dish. Square has always had a real knack for CG, even back before they were Square Enix and they were still Square Soft. I think it was Final Fantasy The Spirits Within, that CG movie, actually. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. Tanked Square Soft. Oh, god damn it, Spirits Within killed everything good about Square. Anyway, we now have back-to-back-to-back boss fights to deal with. Starting here with Wedge. Or, I'm sorry, Biggs. I always get the two mixed up. Biggs is gonna do little more than cast magic at us. He is the same model as the Galbadian elite soldiers. We're gonna trounce him with summons. A lot of the early game is gonna revolve around summoning Guardian Forces. Most people make the mistake of abusing Guardian Forces way too often throughout the entirety of the game, and it comes back to bite them later on. They are very easy to abuse early in the game, and so it becomes a habit. And it's not even necessarily the wrong thing to be doing early on. Like I said a few parts ago, there are better options. They are far less intuitive than just going for the Guardian Forces. Also, they take a little bit of grinding before you can get to them. But as we go through Dollet and we complete the seed field exam, we're finally going to get our hands on some of the more awesome game-breaking systems here. Or rather, we're going to get our hands on a few ways to open those systems up to us. And after you've dealt a little bit of damage to Biggs, Wedge will also show up to assist. Wedge, where were you? No pay for you this month! You have to imagine I'm saying it in the Soup Nazi voice. No pay for you! Alright, and one more Guardian Force summon, one more round of damage, is usually enough to end this portion of the fight. I'm actually not sure if this part of the fight is timed or if it's based on damage. No, it might be timed, actually. I'm not sure. Or I am completely wrong and it is timed. I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is that eventually you fight Biggs and Wedge for a little bit. And the actual boss of the area makes himself known to you. This is Elvoret, or Elvoret. I believe it's based on a French word meaning violet, which is a reference to the color of its wings. So the first thing you want to do in the fight is you want to go ahead and draw Siren from him. And there's also something else that's very useful you can draw from him, which is the spell Double, which I'll talk about in just a second. So if you kill the boss without drawing Siren from him, you cannot get her until Disc 4. She is one of the earliest Guardian Forces you acquire. She's one of the earliest ones you acquire that you do not have to for the story. In fact, Ifrit, Quetzalcoatl, and Shiva are the only 3 Guardian Forces that you actually have to get to complete the game. So, Siren is the first missable one. She casts, when you summon her, basic, I think non-elemental damage. But the real purpose of Siren is she silences enemies for you. That's not what actually makes her useful, though. She can learn something called Life Magic Refine, which lets you refine items into healing magic like Cure, and more importantly, Curaga. And you can put that through its paces very early in the game, which we'll be seeing once we finish up in Dollet. So this is the main ability that Elvoret uses. It's called Storm Breath. Every 3 turns he casts it, and it hits everyone in your party for about 160 damage. He also casts some elemental damage. He hits fairly hard for being such an early boss. Not really that big of a deal, especially if you're shielding yourself from damage a little bit with Guardian Forces. Oh, right, I was going to talk about the other thing that you can draw from him, which is kind of special. You can draw a spell called Double from him. It's a pretty awesome sounding buff, and it's the prelude to one of the best magics in the game for junctioning triple. Double, when you cast it on a character, it causes them to cast 2 spells on 1 turn. The downside is that you deplete your stock of spells quicker. And because you're usually better off using magic to junction, it discourages spellcasting in this game. So you can go ahead and stock up on Double from Elvoret. I did not find any particular need to go and do that. It can obviously help you if you have a nice hefty stock of doubles until you get access to triple, but I believe you can get access to triple as soon as you get Diablo, because Diablo gets time magic refine. So really, for the most part, unless you have taken the time very early in the game to, say, grind out fish on the beach near Balam, and refine all the fins you get into water crystals, which I think you can then refine into water magic. Or I have something in that sequence slightly out of place. Either way, you can grind out water magic early on, and you can use that to buff your strength. You can get access to one of Squall's earlier Gunblade upgrades pretty quick before you get to this point in the game. You can have Squall hitting quite hard, and you can totally bypass the need to go through these long sequences of summoning Guardian Forces, and you can make all of that pretty irrelevant at this point. I have chosen not to do that. This is pretty much the slow, normal way that you would be doing this Elvoret fight if this is maybe your first time through the game. Like I said, it's going to be not too long before we get into that more game-breaking stuff, the fun stuff where we really start to see how open the system is. But before we get to that point, I just want to show off how the game is normally played. FF8 is very, very heavy on the use of summons, not very heavy on the use of spellcasts, and then you would normally, towards the mid and the late game, be doing a lot of stuff like using aura or abusing the critical low health state in order to trigger limit breaks, and you would typically get a lot of your damage that way without having to rely on the very time-consuming animation sequences for summoning Guardian Forces. But for the early game, though, that's perfectly fine. We haven't really seen all that much of what this game has to offer yet, so we're gonna grind it out with the Guardian Forces and finish this that way. And then later on, it's gonna turn into a lot of attack spamming. The battles themselves in this game, whether you do this normally with Guardian Forces and then later on just through normal attacks buffed by junctioning, the combat encounters themselves are not very interesting. They're pretty boring. With the exception of the live-action stuff you can do during limit breaks, like the trigger pulling during Squall's first limit break, the inputs for Zell's limit break, stuff like that kind of varies it up. The limit break system in general is pretty good, but really it's what you do outside of the battles to prepare for them. The preparation is what really makes the combat of FF8 fun. The preparation can get really elaborate and really interesting, but then once you get into combat, if you're doing it the normal way, it's all what I just described, and then if you're doing it the broken way, and you're really taking advantage of what the junction system has to offer, it's really just attack spamming and doing enormous amounts of damage. By the way, about Biggs and Wedge back there, they are named after Luke's two wingmen from A New Hope. And they are also two of the most frequently recurring characters in all of Final Fantasy. So, now that we have defeated Elvoret and also Biggs and Wedge, we can start to make our way back to the town square and back to shore, because we have at this point essentially completed our mission. Also, Selphie has informed us that we have 30 minutes to get our asses out of here, so we're gonna be exiting stage left. But first, Biggs has something to say about that. He's about to sick a new boss on us. This boss is named XATM09. It's a giant mechanical spider. This is a boss that you are not meant to beat this early on in the game, and I save at this point, and I am happy I did, because I had to repeat this section for reasons you'll see in a moment. You're not supposed to beat him this early. You totally can, though. I did not. The gimmick of the fight is that when you take off 1/5 of this boss's health or more, it starts to repair. While it's repairing, you can flee, you can run away from the fight, which is what you would normally do. It's what you should normally do. That, while it's repairing, is the only point in the fight at which you can flee. Once he repairs to full health, you have to bring him down again. If you do this a few times in a row, he runs out of repairs, and you can finally kill him once and for all. You get a massive 50 AP for your Guardian Forces, and you get a random ability that you can teach to your Guardian Forces, kind of like how TMs in Pokemon work. However, there is also a very super abusable trick that you can do that I was not in a position to exploit when I recorded this. If you have really taken the time in the beginning of the game to do a little bit of grinding and drawing and messing about with a card game, you can buff up Squall or Quetzalcoatl or whoever you want to the point where you can deal more damage to him than he has health. Ordinarily, I would just say you can just buff up enough to the point where you can one-hit kill him. But he does not die during his self-repair sequence. You can't kill him while he does that. But if you hit him once to start his repair sequence, then hit him again for enough damage to finish him while he's repairing, he will instantly heal back to 100%. Then you can hit him one more time to bring him back into his repair sequence, flee, and you will get 50 AP. You can do that repeatedly without killing him. You actually don't even need to grind that much. You can get a new weapon for Squall early on in the game. And if you want to junction like 100 waters to strength or something, you can have Squall hitting for like 2,500 damage at this point in the game, if you really want to take the time to do it. Or you could just slightly buff Quetzalcoatl up early on with stuff like Summon Magic plus 30% and Boost, because he is weak to lightning. By the way, this is one of the reasons why I had to do this section twice, is because the buttons are kind of messed up here. The reason I'm walking down the cliffside is because you don't get attacked by XATM if you're walking down that cliffside. So you can bypass an entire encounter with this boss just by walking during that one section. I couldn't figure out what the button to walk was when I play this, because again, this is the Steam version. It doesn't seem to like my analog sticks. It doesn't seem to have analog movement, just digital. So you have to hold down the cancel button to walk. Also, what I did back there, I had him jump over me to cut me off once, and then I started retreating back towards the side of the bridge I came in from. The spider jumped behind me again. That let me bypass another encounter, and I kind of screwed up here trying to save the dog, and had to fight the boss one more time. But again, all you need to do is deal enough damage to him, which you can do pretty quickly through abusing his elemental weakness to lightning and summoning Quetzalcoatl. All you have to do is get him down to his repair sequence, and then you can flee from the fight in safety. And the idea here is you want to lead him back to the beach where you first came in on. If you don't destroy him yourself, that is your only other option. You do get some bonuses here. You can get a mission bonus for saving the dog, which I believe I failed to do. You get a mission bonus if you destroy the big old mechanical spider yourself, which again I did not do, so I'm not going to be able to get those bonuses. And I think there were two things that were on my mind, and they have faded. Nope, they didn't. Okay, so the other reason why I had to repeat this sequence twice was because I could not figure out what the buttons to flee on the Steam version of this game. I could not figure that out. I'm using a DualShock 4. It should be the same button mappings as a 360 controller or a PS3 controller, both pretty common to use on PC. I believe the normal button combination for fleeing from a battle using a DualShock 1 was R1 and L1. You have to click both analog sticks down in this version of the game to flee. I could not figure out how to do it before. That's nice. While we listen to you guys talk about how you have to withdraw, we'll just stand around waiting for the spider to kill us. Alright, cool, and that's the Seed Field Exam completed. So if you don't destroy XATM-09 yourself and you just lead it back to the beach, Quistis is very coolly waiting with that awesome turret to destroy it for you. Right, Cypher. So, in case I didn't mention this last time, the thought that I was hanging on before the FMV, in case I didn't bring this up last time, if you're trying to go through the game yourself and you're trying to do this without leveling up at all, Dollet is a critical juncture. Basically, what you want to do on a no-level run when you get to the seed field exam in Dollet is you want to kill off your other 2 party members and leave Cypher alive with everything junctioned to him. There are a couple of fights where you can't card the enemies and you can't run away from the fights. There are, I think, 5 of them in total. Those 5 fights where you have to kill the enemies to finish it, you can't run away or card them, Cypher will not gain enough experience from those 5 fights in order to level. Anyway, that is it for Dollet for now. Cypher has stolen the car and forced us to run back to Balam Garden. Next time, we'll get into some more Triple Triad. I'm going to use Siren to acquire a Life Magic Refine, and then we can really start to crack this game open and see how malleable the junction system is. Also, before I go, I just want to ask for any of your feedback that you might have on how this is going so far. It's a long, complicated JRPG with random battles and tons of text boxes and stuff. Not something I've really done before in an LP form, so I'm trying to keep the pace up. I'm trying to go as in-depth as possible with all of these systems, and post-commentary is something that I'm still pretty new at. Recording the commentary after the gameplay has already been recorded. So if I'm not explaining things well, or if I'm not going into the level of detail that I need to, or if I'm missing out on details or ignoring things, or if there's anything else you want to see or see me fix, let me know. Next episode, I'm probably going to try to go back to normal live commentary, since it's what feels natural to me, and I'll figure out how to work around those random encounters, and if I can't, then just go back to doing post-commentary. Until then, though, thanks for watching, everyone. Take it easy. Have a good one.